So I just saw a headline about Bill Cosby and the fact that the judgment for the lawsuit where he owes one of his accusers $19 million still stands, and how that came to be. He raped her. He gave her a drink in 1972, and it had a pill in it, and here we are. Um, and that's awful. Um, but I want to dig down in this. And again, let me say my opinions, my thoughts. I'm not calling anyone out or anything. This this post was prompted by a headline that I saw. So I want to talk about sexual assault and all of the iterations that come under that. So you have sexual assault, which we are now trained to say because it's politically correct and it's not as harsh as previous monikers or previous labels, um, such as rape or molestation or whatever. But I'm going to call the thing because I think that there is a difference between sexual assault and rape. Both are wrong, very wrong. But I don't want to reduce the severity of being violated and assaulted um, sexually. So I want to first start with, sexual assault for me um, happens when, or has happened to me, as I remember having been on the subway in New York or in Philadelphia and somebody grabbing my ass, or sitting across from somebody on the train, some man on the train, and he is pleasuring himself while looking at me. That's assaulting. Someone who purposely brushes up against you or rubs their body to the sway of the train or something like that, that's assault for me. um, and I think it's important to differentiate it. It's not that it's less serious, no. I just think that it's important to differentiate it because I was, as many women were, in having had those experiences, was able to recover from that and did not feel, though I felt violated and it was assaulting, I was not violated where I could not come back from that, or where I really needed to have to deal with that. But still very triggering for anyone. That's just how I dealt with it. Rape, on the other hand, is physically violent. Um, it is not about sex or sexual pleasure. It is about control, and one person who has absolutely no control over anything, himself included, asserting himself and trying to control another person through violence and through penetration, whether vaginally or anally or orally, and holding their victims in such a way that is terrified, where their victims are terrorized, and not being, and that victim not being able, there is no out. There is no walking away from this because physically, emotionally, spiritually, you've been so violated by an individual who, not that because he was attracted to you, who had no control of himself. And the only way that he could get control of himself or feel like he was in control of something was to control and impose himself physically and violently on another woman or on a woman. So this is how I differentiate it. Both are still criminal, but I just wanted to make that differentiation. I also want to talk about survivalship and victims. I will never ever blame a victim. Nobody asks to be assaulted, sexually assaulted, per my definition, or raped, per my definition. Nobody asks for that. Nobody wants that. It leaves you feeling, at the very least, dirty. At the very least. Nobody wants that. And you do feel that your control and your power has been taken away. And no one wants to feel powerless or out of control of something. So, where I say I will not blame the victims, I would implore my sistren to ensure that they don't become victims. And this is where it can get a little murky. So, let's paint a scenario. There's this guy that you like, and y'all are at a club or something like that, or you work together. And he says, and you're on a business trip, and you're like, oh, okay, he's cute, whatever. And he says, well, why don't we work from my room, my hotel room? You have to think about that. Now, remember, you think he's cute, or you might like him a little bit, and he senses that because people pick up on vibes. So his feeling is, all right, well, she'll come up, or, and if you agree, he's thinking, you know what this is. So we'll start off with small business talk and then work our way into the bedroom, and, bada bing, bada boom, there you have it. So you have to think about, is that what you want him to think of you? Again, this is not victim shaming. This is victim protecting yourself so that you don't become a victim. Now, if this guy that you like says, hey, why don't we conduct this business in my room? And you're like, you know what? I want to keep this 100%. Why don't I see about getting one of the meeting rooms that the hotel has? Or who else is going to be there? So you kind of protect yourself a little bit, or at least signal to him that you're not down for the okie doke. Now, maybe he likes you. So maybe he says, hey, I like you. I want to spend some personal time with you. Let's talk in my room. Okay. That again is your decision. But I want to drive home the fact that because you work with someone or work for someone, you are not obligated. And this is to protect you, because after the act is done, then that's when we go into, the criminality behind it. But you don't want to be a victim. So, whether it's your coworker or your boss, you are not obliged to go with them behind closed doors. And during non-business hours. It leads to a lot of questions in terms of what happened or what is going to happen. If he is not seeing or understanding where this isn't a good look for him, you should be thinking about what this looks like or what it could turn into. And then, make your decision accordingly. If you are completely uncomfortable with that decision, then you absolutely say, no, I'm not going to your room. We can meet in the lobby, or we can do a Zoom from my room to your room, whatever it is, but I'm not going to be in your room. And you are well within your right to do so. And so my point being is protect the victims, support the victims, advocate for the victims, but more importantly, don't become a victim, and which is even better. We hear a lot about Harvey Weinstein apparently is upset with Gwyneth Paltrow because of what she said, or something in terms of her interaction with Harvey Weinstein and how she felt that it was inappropriate. and neither one of us were there. No, none of us were there. And Harvey is, I would say, guilty of some violent sexual acts, rape. I knew a person who he allegedly raped, and I believe her. And of course, all of that was written up by Ronan Farrow and everything else. But one of the things that I didn't understand, and I still can't quite get with, is some of the claims, some of the accusations that fall under quid pro quo. So, quid pro quo, as we know, is not a crime. If I do this and you do that, if we're both consenting and you get what I promised you, quid pro quo. It works. So if Harvey Weinstein or anyone is in a position, a leadership position, a position of power, and he says to someone, well, if you have sex with me, I will give you the lead in this film that I'm producing. You then have sex with him, and you get the lead of the film he's producing. Where was the harm? Now, if Harvey Weinstein says, or anyone like him, if you have sex with me and I will give you the lead in this film that I'm producing, and you say no, and you don't get the role, then that's sexual harassment. And he was wrong, because that was quid pro quo, illegal quid pro quo, criminal quid pro quo. But my point being is, you can't claim that you were sexually assaulted or raped after a quid pro quo act. It doesn't work that way. And again, I'm not like victim blaming. I'm just setting I'm just trying to understand and give an understanding in terms of where we are, because as a woman, as a Black woman in America, we've had to endure and deal with many, many things: sexual harassment, racial discrimination, sexual harassment with racial discrimination, all of that. So it is all very serious. But also as a Black woman and a staunch protector of Black men, and having seen what accusations, false accusations have done to certain Black men, I feel it is my duty to remind people or introduce people to the notion that if you got what was promised to you, it wasn't quid pro. If you got what was promised to you, it wasn't criminal. It was quid pro quo. And that's that. We are a litigious society, and I filed a lawsuit or two. We are a litigious society, and sometimes I think that we're frivolous with that. But most times we're not. But at the same time, we have to remember, as we are making these decisions to pursue litigation, looking at the long haul or long run of that. Get out. Get out. Jaja, get out. Go. Sorry about that. That was Jaja, my guard dog. But anyway, we are litigious, and what I don't want to do is have those women or individuals who have been legitimately discriminated against, legitimately harassed, legitimately assaulted, legitimately raped. I don't want their experiences to be diluted or disregarded because someone said, or someone made a claim that just wasn't true, or someone said, well, he said if I had sex with him, he would give me the lead, and I got the lead, but he shouldn't have said that. You don't have a case. So I just want us to be, I want to be clear in terms of my stance as it relates to sexual assault and rape and victims and survivors, and not becoming or putting myself in a position to be a victim or a survivor. Again, I pray that you take this with the intention, in the spirit that it was meant to be taken. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or minimize anyone's experiences or thoughts. That's not my objective here. I just want to add food to thought. When we go through these experiences, what our next steps are, what our active recourse are, and that's that. Peace and blessings.